in the studio with us. I'm pleased to have back our good friend Alex Lawson, the executive director of Social Security Works, which is a nice little, is that a pun or a, what's the?
A statement of belief and our mission, all embodied in one.
Yeah, no, it's not a pun. It's a double entendre.
It is. That's
something that means
what
two
it is.
things. Yeah, double entendre. Social Security Works is the website, socialsecurityworks.org. And I want to get you on, Alex. There are a lot of young people whose parents are aging into eligibility for Social Security and Medicare, who may be listening or watching, and their parents may be coming to them with questions, or their parents may be getting advice from people who don't necessarily have their best interests at heart. There's a whole industry out there of, let me help you, give me some money and let me help you. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's also a lot of people listening and watching who themselves are baby boomers and are aging into this. And I'm one of them. Louise and I are two of them. And so I'll start with our example and just ask your advice, which is, it's so cool being a talk show host. I don't have to go out and pay somebody to tell me this stuff. In May of next year, I will turn 65, which used to be the retirement age. I think for people my age, it's now 66.
Right.
But in any case, next year I turn 65. Louise turns 63. I've been drawing a paycheck against my company, against this business for years and years. Louise has not. She's Social Security eligible right now. She's 62. Should she apply for Social Security? And then should we file separately instead of jointly on our taxes? I mean, what's the situation? When should somebody in her position, because that's one of the more common ones, a spouse who has worked on and off. She's worked on and off throughout her life, but most of the time we consolidate our because we've always owned our own companies. We consolidate our income so we're not double paying our payroll insurance. Mm-hmm. So anyway, your thoughts?
So you have been paying in. One thing just to start that I think does clarify some things is. You said you're turning 65. The full retirement age is 66 for people your age, your
right.
cohort, which is correct.
Right.
But if you want your listeners to really understand how the system works, if you just change full retirement age to full benefit age, because it has nothing to do with when you retire, right? You can retire whenever you want.
I plan to be doing this show for at least another decade. I mean, now, I'm not retired. I'm not going. And that was my other question, because I'm going to continue to have an income, and Louise is going to continue not to.
So the full benefit age is the age at which your full benefit that you're entitled to your full benefit. Right. Every year that you draw before that, which you can go down to 62, which would be early. Right. That is a 7% reduction in your benefits for
per
year, and it's forever. Mm. So if you claim early, then you have permanently reduced your benefits forever by 7% each year, which is why, just to go policy for a second, that's why those proposals that the right always puts in, they sound like it has something to do with how long you work, but they have nothing to do with that. They only have to do with the amount of benefits that you're going to get. Because if they raise that full benefit age, it's a 7% cut for every year it goes up.
Wow.
So here is the general advice that I think is important for everyone to understand. You're going to make a decision based on your situation, yours and Luis's situation, right? And you're going to know that your medical needs are a part of choosing, when you are going to claim your benefits. So people's individual medical situations, their health, the history in their family of longevity, the knowledge that women live longer than men, things like that, you should take those into account.
Yeah, Louise's mother is in her mid-80s. Her grandmother died at 96. She's probably going to live a long, long time.
And that's important with Social Security because, as you know, it's that you cannot outlive Social Security. Right. You can outlive your savings. You can outlive everything but Social Security. So for the oldest of the old, which is more women than men because women live longer, you are looking at relying more on Social Security.
So she would be well advised not to start taking Social Security now, but to wait until she's, 66 is the maximum benefit age?
Actually, so that's the full benefit age.
Or the full benefit age. Yeah.
And every year after that, up to the age of 70, you get a 7% increase in your benefits.
Really the full retirement age now is 70.
I think actuarially, the full benefit age or retirement age is still, it's 66 and it's going up to 67 for people my age.
Right.
But there is an incentive in the benefit structure. So actually, that's the total benefit that you've earned.
Right.
Each year after that, you actually are getting more. Right. So it's an increase.
Right.
And the reason each year you wait, you are not getting benefits, right?
Right.
So you're not getting benefits between, let's say, 60.
So the question is that 7% that you're losing
Exactly.
Greater or less than the amount of money you're going to make between the time that you quote retire, start taking Social Security, and the time that you die?
Exactly. So that's why taking into account medical history, longevity in the family, knowing that that women live longer than men.
Didn't Social Security used to be just a flat rate? You turn 65 and you got a certain amount of money?
No,
Or has it always been this way?
It's always been, there's tweaks along the way, so it looks a little different, but generally this is the formula that...
All the way back to the 30s?
Generally, yes. I'd have to look in on... The spousal benefit has been made better over time because the spousal benefit is really important and we need to do more there, but I won't go on policy. Right. It's really important for exactly your setup, your situation, right? Because it would be very unfair if Louise couldn't claim any Social Security benefits, because clearly working with you, that's what has allowed you to pay in for your Social Security.
Right.
And then she does have a claim on those Social Security benefits.
Right.
So the spousal benefit, the basic part of that is after 10 years of marriage, then a person can claim on their spouse's work history. And usually, even if somebody has worked at periods during their life and then not, right, you still get your statement, and it says, as long as you have enough quarters, it says this is your work. This is your workers, right? And you have an amount.
So we've been married 43 years. Does that mean that she can claim against my Social Security?
That's exactly what it means, yes.
And she could do that now? Does that fix my Social Security payments at a lower rate down the road? And can both spouses be drawing Social Security? This is how ignorant I am about this stuff.
And this is actually where it gets most complicated, actually. So it's not at all, I don't think that you are by any means alone on this one.
Yeah.
The best, and I'm going to answer questions, but still the best resource for this is actually SSA.gov itself. You go to the spousal benefit, look at it. If you have your benefit statements, you can see the numbers on there. A big danger is if you turn people just out to the internet and they just Google this, you'll get pages and pages of people who want to give you advice
and take your money.
Because their advice is usually actually... If you have a financial planner, if somebody or your listeners have financial planners, the first question you should ask them is, what about my Social Security? And if their answer is not, well, you can count on your Social Security and it's the foundation that you build the rest of your retirement on, you should find another financial planner. Because if they say anything like, it's not going to be there for you, so claim as early as possible, things like that, that's just them trying to scare you into putting more money with them.
Right. And there's no law against that, oddly enough. Elizabeth Warren has been talking about that. Your financial advisors can actually lie to you. They can sell you products that make them money but cost you money and not disclose that to you. And in fact, that is the norm, apparently, in financial services these days, rather, at least with people who are not rich.
Right.
You financial planners who lie to rich people tend to get in trouble. Financial planners who lie to middle class and working people, they make a fortune.
They get bonuses.
Yeah, exactly. Alex Lawson is with us from Social Security Works. We'll be taking your calls, too, if you have questions about Social Security.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And Medicare, and all that stuff that goes along with it. Alex Lawson, the website, socialsecurityworks.org, and you can tweet Alex at ALAW202. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you live from Washington, D.C. Alex Lawson, the Executive Director of Social Security Works. Socialsecurityworks.org is the website. The Twitter is SSWorks, at SSWorks, or at ALAW202. Alex Lawson, the Executive Director, is here with us answering your questions about Social Security, Medicare, retirement, all those kind of things. Just trying to learn this stuff, trying to figure it out. Alex, just to the net bottom line on what Louise and I should do is and I'm not asking for specific advice, just to let's say somebody in our situation. Should I just like keep taking a paycheck and just keep waiting and not tap Social Security as long as possible?
It is generally, but is the best course of action, actually, because if you have other savings,
assuming I'm healthy,
right? It's all about you think about how many years are you going to be claiming Social Security. Right. So if you have other assets that can, or you're still working,
right,
the longer you delay your Social Security benefit, the higher it is, and the 7% permanent increase for each year you wait past your full benefit age is huge, right? I mean, inflation protected annuity, and you're getting 7% more on that. Especially in this weird economic situation where we are right now, there's nothing that really beats that.
Now, meanwhile, somebody said to me the other day that if I didn't register for Medicare on time, that I would lose eligibility for it, or I'd get penalized or something like that. I'm not sure if I want Medicare or not. I get health insurance with my job. I mean, I own the company. We give full health insurance, 100% paid to all of our employees. So I've got that. If I get it, everybody gets it. What's the story with Medicare?
Your friend was right. You have to make sure that you apply for your Medicare that you've paid for, you've paid into. You then do have to decide, okay, you don't have to take your Medicare.
Right.
You can keep your private health insurance. But almost across the board, especially for things that come up later in a person's life, the private health insurance is not going to actually measure up to what Medicare provides people.
Medicare is better insurance for somebody over 65 than what they would buy from a for-profit company.
I mean, it's specific, but I would say that I'm super comfortable saying almost all the time.
Now,
it's better.
What about, Stephen J. Hemsley, the CEO of United Healthcare, has taken over $1 billion out of his company in compensation over the years. His predecessor, Dollar Bill McGuire, took $1.7 billion. Every penny of that was taken, profit on selling health insurance. And apparently one of the big products that United Healthcare offers through AARP is supplemental health insurance to fill in the holes of Medicare. When did those holes appear? Why are they there? Why do we have to buy supplemental insurance? Does that go through the Social Security Administration? Should I be talking to United Healthcare or AARP or not? What's the situation?
It's a really good question. I
know nothing about this.
It's a really important one because actually, as I was saying, Medicare, I'm actually thinking of the full complement, which unfortunately means including Medigap coverage, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
The part that really no one can match is for unforeseen things. So the hospital insurance on Medicare is unmatchable. And that is super important later in life.
Sure. Things break more easily.
Yes.
Let me tell you.
And chronically, and things that, there's oftentimes one thing leads to another.
Right.
And so there's a lot more hospitalization.
Right.
And Stephen Hemsley did not make $1 billion in income by providing people health care, right? I mean, they're in the business of denying people health care.
Right.
Take your premiums, deny you health care.
Right.
And so oftentimes when a person is sick and needs that health care most, that's when they're least likely to be able to wade through all of the paperwork, the denials. It's a routinized denial, right? I mean,
I had United Healthcare as a health insurance company for a couple of years, and every single claim, not every single, but a wild number of the claims that my doctor or our hospitals would submit, they would kick back to us. And then you've got to protest them, and
that's how they make their money.
Well, weirdly enough, I mean, we had Blue Cross Blue Shield for a while, and we never had that problem. They just paid everything.
So one thing is the worst part of that is that they actually the more serious it is, right? So the more chronic or serious that it is, the more likely they are going to deny it as long as possible because they're literally betting on people dying before they're able to. Right. I mean, that's how cynical it is.
So it's a pretty disgusting system with the Medigap coverage, but still, do we have to do it?
So I would say Medigap if you can. And again, you have to look at your current policy versus Medicare with Medigap. It's still going to be, and for your listeners, Medicare is going to be almost certainly the best option.
No,
that
I'm
they
2
have.
years older than my wife. She's covered by my health insurance policy from this company.
Yes.
If I go on Medicare next year when I turn 65, what happens to Louise?
That's a great point, and that would be something that you'd want to take into account because she's covered on your policy. That's a good question, Tom. I don't have that specific answer,
Okay.
but I think if you don't have that coverage, then she can't actually claim on that health insurance.
Right. So, and there are people at Medicare and at Social Security whose job is to answer these kind of questions.
At the Social Security office,
Okay.
which is where you...
SSA.gov.
Yep.
Right. We'll be back with your questions for Alex Lawson.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
We're talking with Alex Lawson, at SS Works, if you want to tweet, or at ALAW202. The website is socialsecurityworks.org. It's Talk Media for the sane among us, the Thom Hartmann Program. Welcome back. Alex Lawson in the studio with us, the Executive Director of Social Security Works, socialsecurityworks.org. You can tweet him at ALAW202 or at SS Works, as in Social Security Works, SS Works. Alex, before we pick up the phone, every single line is full. We got a whole bunch of people who have questions for you. But first, what's the difference between Medicare Part A, Part B, Part C, and Part D?
So A, B, and D. So Part A is hospital insurance, and that pays for inpatient hospital stays hospital insurance. Part B is basically it's your medical insurance for your doctor's visits, for things like
Lab
that.
fees, stuff like that.
Not at the hospital, exactly. Right. And then Part D is your prescription drug component. And the Part A and Part B are, I think actually now at this point, people consider all of them together Medicare, but there are different pieces. And so you can have, earlier we talked about Part A is the one that is, especially for anything catastrophic or chronic, that's the one that is really important and unbeatable, basically.
Right.
And you can have Part A without Part B. And you sign up for Medicare, and then you don't have to have Part B because you have to pay some premiums on Part B.
And you don't pay premiums on Part A?
Not on Part A. So Part A, because you've been paying into Medicare your whole life, and that part is your.
So when people have premiums deducted from their Social Security, that's for Part B.
Part B.
That's for the doctor's bill part.
Exactly.
And to sign up for this, do I have to go somewhere and do something, or can I do it online, or
you
can I make
do
a
it
phone
online?
call?
You're going to run into one of my big biases here, which is that I think that going to the Social Security office is a really good idea, especially if it's the first time that you are looking at the whole system, because you're talking about your Social Security benefit, you're talking about your Medicare, all together. This is a very complex issue. Right. And I think that going into the office, talking to workers in your SSA office is really a good move. You can do it all online. It's totally possible. The Social Security Administration is really pushing people to do more online.
So Medicare is administered by the Social Security Administration? So that's also at that SSA.gov website?
They're intrinsically linked. It's actually Center for CMS is actually Medicare. Social Security Administration is Social Security, but the offices that you'd go to for Medicare,
they're the same offices.
It's Social Security offices, right?
So, and the website is cms.gov?
Go to SSA.gov.
SSA.gov, Social Security Administration.
Yep, SSA.gov, because there you'll find all the information about both your Social Security and Medicare, and links to take you everywhere, explanations about signing up. You can do everything online with a thing called My SSA.
Right.
As soon as you sign up for My SSA, they'll stop sending you paper statements, though, which is annoying to me. I think that you should have the option of getting the paper statements and going online. I don't know why it locks you into one, but if you
saves some money.
It does. That is why. But it's penny wise, pound foolish. But it is actually quite easy to access the information at ssa.gov to find all the information that you need. I I don't know if we want to go to callers.
Yeah, let's do that. I was just looking through them. And Frank in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Frank, you're on the air with Alex.
Hi. My question is, I just retired. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just fine.
Okay. My question is, I just retired from the laborers union at 52 years old, about 3 years ago. I'm 55 now. So I get a small pension from my union, $1,300 a month. That's it. Am I eligible for Social Security disability? Being I retired because I was having medical problems since I've had total hip replacement. My doctor says I cannot go back to that type of work.
Interesting question. So somebody in Frank's situation, thank you, Frank, for the call.
So if somebody's in Frank's situation, somebody who has a illness or injury that takes them out of the workforce, they definitely should go and look whether or not they will qualify for a Social Security disability. It is a very stringent process. It is a very high bar because it's not just that a person can't perform the job that they used to do, but it's actually that they can't perform jobs. And so it's a very high bar to reach.
I've heard that not unlike United Healthcare, they always reject you the first time, and then you've got to come back and fight with them and hire lawyers. And
so the first interaction I had with Social Security was I worked in a clinic, and half my job was just helping people like go through the paperwork and stuff. Right. I 100% believe that they rejected every application.
Yeah.
Like that was what it was 100% of the time. I told my clients that because I'd never seen it not happen.
Right.
It wasn't until I started learning the policy that I realized it wasn't 100% of the time that they actually don't reject it. I thought that was the way it went.
Wow.
But it's such a high rejection rate that is what it looks like.
Right. Remarkable. Carol in Murrells Island or Inlet, South Carolina. Hey, Carol, you're on the air with Alex Lawson.
Yeah, thanks for bringing Jen on today.
Carol, your phone is all broken up. I can't. No, I can't. I'm sorry. Is there anything you can do with your?
You've been breaking up too.
Yeah.
My question has to do with the formula.
Okay.
For what's taken out of Social Security for Medicare.
What is the formula for what's taken out of Social Security to pay for Medicare? Is that your question, Carol?
Yes, exactly. Is it different for men and women, just like the insurance companies do?
Oh, interesting. Is it different for men and women? Alex?
It is not different for men and women. I don't think there's gender rating on it. I'm close to positive, but I've never been asked that. My short answer is it's not different for men and women. So out of your Social Security benefit, but I'm going to check that one to make sure. Out of your Social Security benefit, automatically your premiums for Medicare Part B are deducted from your Social Security benefit. So that's, I think, what she's asking about.
Right.
So that is the main variance there is actually in the size of your Social Security benefit itself.
Oh, really? So Medicare takes less from you if you get less from Social Security?
If you get, because they're not going to take you down to zero, for example.
Sweet.
But if there is a difference, if the caller was calling because they were seeing a difference, it could be actually based on the size of one benefit versus the size of the other.
Interesting. Catherine in Sacramento, you're on the air. Hey, Catherine, thanks for joining us.
Good. Okay, my question is, I'll do a hypothetical. The husband made more money and the wife made less. The wife is going to get less Social Security on her own. She wants to retire early at 62, so she can take her Social Security because I want to see if this is true. She can take her Social Security because she didn't make as much as he did.
Right.
And then when she is at retirement age, which I guess you said was 66,
yeah,
she can switch over to the husband's, and then she'll get a full.
Yeah, that would be the situation with Louise and me. Is that viable?
Is that true?
It is. There's a couple.
Thank you, Catherine.
There's a couple moving parts here, though, and this is why I somewhat laughed when you brought it up in the beginning, because actually the budget deal that's being negotiated right now could have an impact on that in some specific cases.
Really?
There are aggressive claiming strategies that's what they're
They refer to them.
But they were put into law very late in the year 2000, and they allow people to It's called file and suspend. And so then you can pay back. It's actually a very complicated situation that is probably going to go away. It's not what you or the caller were talking about. What you're talking about is the spousal benefit.
Right.
And the spousal benefit is very straightforward, but you can only claim one or the other, whichever one is higher. And that's the case.
So if I look at our lifetime printouts that we get from Social Security, Louise and I have both had a very, very spotted income history throughout our lives. We tend to start companies, take no income at all for a couple of years, then make a lot of money for a couple of years, sell the company, and then retire for a year or two, and then have no income for a couple of years. But typically that income has been concentrated in my account rather than Louise's. So if she were to take her Social Security retirement at 62 or at 63, and then stop doing that when she becomes 65 and I'm 67, and we both start just taking mine, is that possible? You can flip it like that?
Whichever one is higher. That's what it will.
So it just goes to whichever is higher.
Whichever one is higher.
So would she be claiming against mine right now if she were to say I'm retiring?
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's whichever one is higher. She would be either taking early retirement benefits, which is her on her worker file,
right,
or she would be claiming spousal benefits,
right.
But there's only the ability to take the spousal benefit or the worker benefit,
and you can't change from one to the other after you've done it for a couple of years.
It is somewhat possible. It's unclear how long it will be possible because of the budget deal.
They're still messing with this stuff. I'm sorry? 5 seconds. Okay. Yeah.
But one of the things you brought in is why it's so important to actually look at your earnings history, because you earn, it's based on average.
Right.
And so you really do want to look and make sure that there aren't any zeros that need to get averaged in.
I've got a bunch of years with zero income. Is that what you're talking about?
But you have more years, you have enough years, 35 qualifying quarters where there is income.
I think so, because my statement says I'm going to get a lot of money.
I think it's important for people to look at that
You're listening
situation.
to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
This is more complicated than I thought. This is fascinating stuff. And this is a reason to go visit your Social Security office, your local Social Security
Exactly.
office, if you possibly can. We'll be back with Alex Lawson. And welcome back. Let's see here. Jesse in Sacramento watching Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Alex Lawson, Jesse.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, man, I watch you every day, man. I like you, man. Even in the evening time when those guys put you in the hot seat, man, you fight your way out. Anyway.
What? Oh, punch my way up. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I turned 62 years old, and then I worked at Campbell's Soup making $25 an hour, and then they closed it down. And then all this time I paid all my child support, all my ex-wife's welfare fraud. And then after I paid all my arrears, then when I did my taxes, they say, hey, you know what? How about your other job? I said, what other job? That's when I found out somebody else was using my Social Security number. So that's why I got to do all my taxes on paper. And then at the last election, that I found out the person who was using my Social Security number was using his name, and the town he lived in only is 20 miles away. No wonder why the IRS would give me a hard time, because they thought I had two jobs.
So you've been the victim of identity theft, essentially, Jesse.
Yeah, I know that. But the person at the last election, I found out the guy lived in over there, and he's using his name, my Social Security number, right?
Right.
And I worked at Campbell Soup for 25 years. They closed down because it was costing too much money and so forth and so forth. And you know what? I don't want to spend all my pension. You know what I mean? Because only a few people got their pensions.
Right.
A lot of people, man, were temped and they didn't get nothing. And I was wondering, that guy who's been using my Social Security number with his Mexican name, because I don't know how to speak Spanish. All the mail that I got for voting was all in Spanish. And I told him, hey, you know what? I tell you, man, I don't know
so
how to
he's
speak
an
Spanish.
undocumented immigrant is what's going on. So what's your question, Jesse?
The question is, that the money man that he been taking, the tax man been taking money out of his paycheck on my Social Security number. Can I get that money on my account?
Yeah, good question. Can Jesse say, hey, there was...
No.
Oh, you can't?
No, it's a really easy one.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be illegal to claim any benefit on income that was not yours.
Right.
And so there's felonies happening in this setup. The person who has stolen the caller's identity. What I think the caller needs to do sooner rather than later is actually go to the Social Security office and really figure out what's what there, because it could unfortunately take a while. And you wouldn't want to be, there's a very horrible position to be in where you are getting overpayments. I don't think SSA should do this. This is a strong belief, and we work to try to get them to end this practice, but they do. They will come after you for overpayments. So they will pay, you'll get a check, you'll spend it. 7 years later, they will come after you and say that you owe for all of those overpayments. Because
they overpaid you because an undocumented alien or somebody was putting money into your Social Security account because
that's
they needed...
very rare. Like that setup is not the one that is.
Is the more common? Was just they screwed up and gave you too much money?
It could even be 100% their fault. That they made a mistake
and they come after
you for the money.
Amazing stuff. Alex Lawson with us. SocialSecurityWorks.org. We'll be right back with more of your questions for Alex. And Mark in San Francisco. Hey, Mark, you're on the air with Alex Lawson.
How you doing, fellas? I wanted to ask a question. I don't know if you have the knowledge of this or not, but I heard that under the new budget deal with the Republicans, that Social Security disability will be calculated differently. Have you heard about that?
There are some changes in DI, but not what you're saying. The benefits are not going to be calculated differently. Social Security benefits are calculated both sides by one awesome, elegant formula. But there are some changes. There are 20 states right now where in the disability program, a person, this is more in the application phase, though, not on the benefit part. So it's not what your question was about. But the change that is in there is an eligibility restriction. And it is, there's already a backlog right now, a huge backlog for people who are trying to get disability benefits. We have the strongest, most stringent standards. The only one more is Korea. The only one with stronger standards.
I mean, harder to get into?
Harder to get into. So, there's false positives and false negatives in any situation.
Right.
I can guarantee you the research shows there are way more false negatives than positives in this, meaning there are way more people who should be on disability who are not on disability.
In the United States.
In the United States.
But that's not the case in the rest of the developed world.
In most of the rest of the there's some that are better than others, but
with the exception of South Korea.
Ours is, with the exception of South Korea, ours is, I think, it doesn't make sense that we have this huge backlog.
Right. Remarkable stuff. Dee in Amarillo, Texas. Hey, Dee, you're on the air with Alex.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. My question is for the past 4 years, I've been getting one amount, then all of a sudden it dropped, and all they can tell me is my husband is making too much money. And yet mine was all based while we were estranged and taken on my work record.
Are you still married and together?
We're kind of together since I got MS.
Okay. But so legally, you're still tied together, in other words.
Yeah, because we're just estranged. We didn't go on through the rest of it after I got sick.
So, Alex?
That's a really difficult one without more information. And unfortunately, I can't give you an answer that'll satisfy you, make you happy on this one, other than you should go into the Social Security office and talk to them. There is a 1-800 number that it sounds like you called, and they said that your husband's income affected it. That's unclear to me what that would mean. So in this case, I think that it's important that you actually go in and talk to somebody to figure out what's going on there.
Okay. Dee, thank you for the call. Let's see here. Ben in Miami, Florida. You're on the air with Alex Lawson.
Hi, guys. I have a Social Security comment and a Medicare question. For Social Security, another option for the spousal situation, which my parents are doing, my dad's 67, my mom's 66. My dad took full retirement at 66, and my mom, who's still working, took, when she turned 66 in February, she took the spousal benefit and she delayed her retirement benefit because she could afford with the money she's getting from work to do that, and that way her retirement benefit's growing while she's earning the full spousal benefits. So that's another option for couples in that situation that I just wanted to share. Mm-hmm. And the Medicare question is, with the late penalty, isn't it true, like for Tom's situation, that if you have group insurance and there's a certain number of employees that work for the company, that you are allowed late enrollment without having the late enrollment penalty? And that's for Alex.
Okay. Alex?
You know, I actually, on the first part, your comment on Social Security, that's, if I'm understanding you correctly, that's the part that very likely will change in a budget because of a budget deal.
Because that's the way that if, for example, Louise applied for the spousal benefit right now, and I waited, I'm actually jacking it up by 7% every year, even though she's taking money out of Social Security. And so that's like our way to get more money out of Social Security, and the Republicans want to end that, right?
Right, without facing the actuarial risk of actually waiting till full retirement age.
Right.
That's so that one is most likely changing, most likely. On the Medicare...
Like this week?
This week, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
On the Medicare question, I actually didn't fully understand if the caller's still on to...
He's not.
So did you get what the group insurance setup was?
Yeah, I think what he was saying is if you retire, if you apply for Social Security, all that kind of stuff, but you're actually not retired, you're still working and you still have group health insurance, is there not an exemption to the you must register for Medicare rule that if you have health insurance, you don't have to register?
You know, I don't put that way. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think it's actually you can get an exemption, but I'm not positive on that.
Right.
And I think that you have to apply, and then you don't have to take it, but you actually have to
get yourself in the system.
Right. You have to get yourself in the system, and then you don't have to take Part B. You don't have to make a decision on Part A.
How many Social Security offices are there, for example, here in Washington, D.C.? I mean, are these offices ubiquitous? Are they all over the country, or do people have to travel hundreds of miles?
I wish there were more. There needs to be more, and there was a wrong-headed push to close offices that we were fighting against, and we got a win at they won't close any more offices.
Right.
In D.C., it's pretty easy. There's very accessible ones. But actually, when you go out into other parts, not near urban centers, it can be very difficult to get to a Social Security office.
And there may be a wait?
There could be a wait. Right now, with the sequester, they've been actually increasing waiting times.
Oh, jeez.
So that's why we need to get rid of the sequester, more money into Social Security, more offices, make it easier for people to get their benefits.
Expand it like Bernie is saying. Alex Lawson with Social Security Works, socialsecurityworks.org, ALAW202, and at SSWorks. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Tom.